Surf's up. We're doing an IGL tier list immediately after Falcons got eliminated at IEM Cologne. I think that kyxsan probably would have still held a pretty decent spot in this had it just been after the major, because it was really just one failure at the helm. And you know what? We'll just rank him first. A lot of people are here for that. So let's just get kyxsan out of the way because we're going to grade him hot and fresh. Hey guys, the sponsor of this video is Skin Club, the case opening website. They've been getting extremely involved with the esports space lately, sponsoring teams like Vitality, the Mongols, Saw. They recently sponsored the HLTV Awards, which they were kind enough to fly me out to. So if you like my content on here or on my Twitch, check out their community portal on their website to consume more esports related and focused content by people like myself, Karrigan, and James Banks. There are deeper dive articles, tier lists from people like myself, and articles about pro skin loadouts. I also publish some of my content monthly over there, so be sure to give them a look. I've called kyxsan a handful of different things, positive things, by the way. A lot of times I just say he's the least embarrassing IGL. I feel like his fragging ability has always been really, really solid. Like he's been just constantly able to hold it down on his bomb sites. It's not really IGLing at that point, but part of being an IGL, and I've talked about this before on other platforms, maybe my last IGL tier list, part of it is your in-game performance, okay? If you're putting up a 0.5 rating with 40 ADR every game, you can't be an in-game leader. You should just be a coach. kyxsan to me still holds some of the ability, like individual ability over a lot of these other in-game leaders, but clearly the tactics have a very low floor. I didn't necessarily think he was that bad. Like the Melbourne final, for example, versus Vitality had some really good strategies being called, really good ideas, playing off of what you did in previous rounds in order to upset the defense and just fake Vitality out of their shoes. So I was really happy with how he was doing then, but the captain element clearly is lacking. If it was just based off of Falcons results pre-major, might have even put S tier, but there's no way he gets that. And I even pre-major might have had him in the A tier, but with the consecutive failures now to not even get to stage 3 at the major and not make it to the playoffs of Cologne or even to the top 8, that is extremely disappointing. So the highest rank I want to give kyxsan at first is the B tier. And this is kind of off of form. I want to say I'm sort of judging this off of the last 7 months, roughly. Some of these guys haven't even really played CS that much in the last 7 months, but I'm still putting them in here. So this is kind of off of the last 7 months and, you know, what he did with Heroic at Shanghai and what he did, I guess 8 months really, including just that last major, including the last 2 majors onward. I'd still have him in the B tier. There was still enough footage to see that he was incredibly competent at it. So I think bottom of B, but definitely at least top of C. I can't really name too many people who I would rather have fragging on an island over him. Okay, let's move on to somebody else. Big career redemption arc here for the Giga Chad himself. They haven't had the best Cologne, but everything I'm seeing from HooXi has been really positive. Really, really positive. I can't judge Shanghai because he wasn't at it, but jumping into this season or last season with Astralis has netted a few very solid results. The MRQ clearly got away from them, and it's another similar, it's a failure on a similar scale to what kyxsan did. I see these guys on a pretty similar level right now. I've actually seen more moments of HooXi fragging as well that really give me some hope. He came into a team that didn't have the highest VRS standing, but I'm almost tempted to say like HooXi's a B plus and kyxsan's a B minus. That still amounts to being in the B tier for me, but it's sort of like B plus A minus. It's right in the middle. It would be like an 89.5 for me, which is really, am I going to round up right now? I might have to. I think they've looked really good with him, except for they did crash out here at Cologne. So I should hold that against him also, but somehow I just don't actually even see it being his fault as much. I actually feel like he's been doing pretty well, and Yabby's been doing very well, but Stown has just been bad. Stown's been pretty bad, and Stair's been okay. Stair's been solid for sure recently. Yabby's been solid. Device has just been kind of a middle tier opper lately. He's not really been the S or A tier that he has been historically. I need to fill out the S and F tier here, though. Guy that never should have been an in-game leader. Guy that somehow was still able to outfrag most of his players on his team as he swapped over to the in-game leader role. I was incredibly vocal about him needing to switch off of this role immediately. And yeah, this is going to be Twistzz. Twistzz is not a leader. He's just not a leader at all. I never saw him getting the more out of his players than he could. The weird problem with this is that he technically made it to the playoffs of Shanghai as an in-game leader. And I kind of want to give him some credit for that. I don't know if it's really merited. And he actually took a bit of a fight to Spirit in that. I'm going to do D. It's a D-, okay? It's a D- for Twistzz. Could he ever get back to the role? Yes. And that's why I'm not putting him in F, okay? If down the line, a couple years from now, we see that rumors are circulating that Liquid want to change up their roster again, they want to put Twistzz back on the in-game leader role, I'm going to have a lot of reservations, but I'm not just out before it even starts, okay? You guys are wondering who the hell should be in F if not Twistzz. Well, we saw this guy have a multitude of chances, okay? We saw him outed from Heroic, where he was at the peak of his powers. Then he joined Liquid, and maybe he didn't get the best pieces around him, but everything that was going on there just felt like a walking disaster. Very few significant results with him at the helm. He got a third life with Astralis, and that too looked horrendous. Yeah, cadiaN is the sole occupant of the F tier at present. I don't see a real reason that even Twistzz should occupy the same tier as him. Not only was cadiaN horrendous at calling, but he was so bad at fragging that he might have been the worst opper in tier 1. And even when he switched over to being a support MP9 person, I mean, he had the worst SMG in all of tier 1 also. Yeah, cadiaN is a deserved F tier for some time. And I don't know. And now he's just basically a content creator, it looks like. So I don't know if there's any route back for cadiaN other than joining a BC game level project. In fact, that might even be too good for him now that Simple's on the team. Okay, a C tier IGL here. This is kind of a weird one from left field. It's a little bit more of a hipster pick for a C tier one. I thought that these guys were pretty good. I've been kind of tricked twice by this guy as an in-game leader. I thought this team was going to be better into this season, and now they're already out of Cologne. I thought they were going to do better at the Major too. I think I put them in I might have had them in my pick'ems, or maybe I think I probably did, which is why I didn't get through. I thought that this guy would, show me a little bit more. I think his fragging while in-game leading is okay. It's like mediocre. But I'm going to put Linus in the C tier, okay? I haven't really been inspired by Heroic lately. I feel like they were actually Saw merchants, because now without Saw, they just feel like they're 30% worse. I thought his fragging was even better, but watching him more recently, that's not really as inspiring to me as it once was. I think the pieces that he has are always worse than what Twistzz had and cadiaN had. He's kind of been okay with it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Heroic fall out of the VRS invites this season. I just feel like they're going to have a really uphill battle, and they're not getting any help from Nilo either. Slight dig at Nilo there, but he just has not impressed me at all at Cologne. Okay, next up, D tier IGL. I'm going to go pretty quickly here. Drop. D for Drop. In the beginning for MIBR, he had a lot of fast poppy plays. I didn't even feel like his fragging depreciated all that much from when he was a support rifler for Furia or MIBR, but the fast poppy plays ran their course, and then it never really developed after that, and it just felt like once people realized they wanted to play rounds in the first 25 seconds, they would just use instant counter utility, the nades they just never employed it or, exercised a pace change in the round. So yeah, Drop is in D tier. I should probably just fill out the S tier. I don't really know how anybody else can really occupy it right now. I think actually there might be two. There might be two S tier people here, but I'll just put the most obvious one now. Obviously, this has to be Apex. Apex was my second best IGL of last year. I voted that in my HLTV ballot for the awards, that despite the fact that all they won last year was Cologne, it was still not his fault that I saw the team crumbling. I saw bad CT sides where they fell off. They still had a good T side on Nuke, despite the fact that they weren't winning tournaments, which I always feel like is such a great barometer of whether a team is actually cohesive or can employ fakes. So yeah, I think Apex is already also it's the only IGL that I see here that actually has a chance of being a top 20 player. Maybe the other guy that I have an S tier could pull it off, but we'll see how the second half of the season, the year goes. And yeah, Apex is a clear S for me. He's like in the S plus by himself. Okay, let's try to find somebody that slots at the C tier also. This guy gained a lot of cultural impact for some really funny moments at the major. Definitely punched above their weight. Got Zwei the bag. And attention, your train is here. Lear is going to be at the top of C tier as well. It felt like he, fragging-wise, probably around the level of Linus too. I just kind of always felt Nemigo were punching above as well. And I don't really trust that the staff around Lear is as good. I would actually decidedly put Lear above Linus today as an in-game leader for the future. So he made Zwei look good. Exactly. Something Chopper actually can't. Yeah, so far. Let's do another B tier IGL. Yeah, this is the big surprise for a lot of people. Obviously, I wanted this guy off of the team for a very long time. I've since changed in the last few months. In fact, again, when it's the last 7 months, including what he did at Shanghai and what actually happened with his team this season when everything was just out of whack, to make it to a grand finals of one tournament and then also give his team a chance to make it to the playoffs of the major, I'm putting Snax in the B tier, guys. I'm putting Snax in the B tier. And even think about it like this, 1-to-1. What did Snax do with similar pieces to kyxsan? Okay, he had Nico, he had m0NESY. They made it to the playoffs of Shanghai. And he wasn't even the reason that they had such a difficult time in the playoffs. They made it to the semifinals of the major, and that was with similar pieces to kyxsan, who couldn't even get out of stage 2. Okay, as a captain, as a caller, definitely deserving at the bare minimum of B. I would want him higher, but he was such a liability for so much of his time on CT side that it's like kyxsan's actually probably the fragger I trust more, the individual I trust more in situations, but I actually like Snax's calls better. I think Snax actually started calling at a higher level than kyxsan did, and actually knew how to get the most out of his pieces, who have shown that if you don't really reel them in and keep the leash tight, then they're just gonna sack themselves. Okay, I think kyxsan's learning that the hard way right now, that he needs to take a little bit more control of his superstar studded team. So yeah, I think Snax has done a really, really good job lately, and I actually do want to see him on a team again. I don't think Snax was good for the first handful of months with G2. Okay, I thought they were winning despite him. But now I feel like he could be an asset for a roster for sure. Let's get another A tier IGL out here. I'm gonna give this guy an A tier IGL, even though I feel like the fall off is apparent, but they are winning me back at Cologne slowly but steadily. The honeymoon was so strong that it felt like this guy was a genius. But in reality, after the first 3 months, the precipitous fall off of Maus' T-sides were quite apparent. But Cologne's look good so far for Brollan and company. I'm going to put him at the bottom of A. Fragging actually looked kind of good here at Cologne. I feel like revitalized after the player break, they're giving me more to be excited about. So I'm kind of shocked. At the beginning of the year, I had the hot take that they weren't going to make any playoffs. Well, they're in top 4 of every tournament that they enter now. Actually, now next to HooXi, now that I think about this A tier a little bit, he has to pass him. They still put together a better game plan than Spirit did in the quarterfinals of the major, with arguably, well, maybe more spread out power, but less of the ultimate tool in Donk. Yeah, I think he's A. Okay, now let's get to somebody that's had a lot of difficulty lately. It's kind of fucked up to even grade this guy because the team has just been so out of whack for so long. I'm giving a huge benefit of the doubt for a guy that I saw at the Shanghai Major be a good leader, bring his team to become greater than the sum of their parts. But then the last season was disastrous. I would have given this guy probably a B tier, maybe even low A for what I saw at Shanghai. But then the last 6 months, a bit of a write-off for me. But I still have to include it. Yeah, I'm going to put Stanislaw in the low C tier. I think he can prove himself here, but man, what the hell is going on with Wildcard for me to actually put him much higher or lower? His fragging has just been so weak too. But again, it's really hard for me to judge this guy fairly. All right, now Miracle Run didn't convince me, okay? Miracle Run didn't convince me all too much. I'm not going to lift this guy way above what happened with them going through stage 1, stage 2, almost making it through stage 3 of the major. Legacy's run was fantastic, but I don't really actually rate Lux that highly. I think he's probably more in the D tier here. I feel like that single run, I'm not going to be fooled, dude. I kind of saw what happened the rest of the season. It wasn't a lot to be happy about, okay? They just had one insane run, and if I'm judging this tier list off of the last 7 months, 8 months, there's not a lot for me to really be too happy about other than a single tournament placing, okay? Yeah, I'll put him above Drop. Definitely better than Drop, but still top of D here. Now, beyond that, I have to be a little bit more honest with myself about this guy because I knew that he would have been the fix for a team a long time ago, but then BetBoom started having some difficulties. I thought they were going to do a little bit better at the major. Well, he survived the first cut here now that it's Axile gone, and I think that was a necessary move. The thing is, I've seen so much from Boomich in the last year and a half. Okay, I know I put 7 months, but I have to be a little bit more realistic with this. I would put him above Lear today, but I'm not putting him above kyxsan. It's either bottom of B, top of C. I mean, I think he got a lot of what he could out of these kinds of lineups. For fear of C getting a little bit too big, I'm going to put him at the bottom of B. But no. I'm going to be honest. The eye test on some of the calls is bad. The eye test is on some of the calls and just like the way they drop some rounds that they just rush it a little bit too quickly. I can't be that high on him. I think he can prove himself to me with the Dillidez edition, but that's going to be the eye test. The eye test got a little bit worse in the last 2-3 months. Okay, I've been getting really flustered with this, and it's a shame because I like this guy a lot. And now he's taking up the in-game leader role, and it just looks bad, man. He's just inting a lot. He's just dying for the dumbest reasons. Even his CT side ability has gotten worse in the meantime. I can't stand behind what I have seen so far from Ints. I think he's right next to Lux right now. Better than dropping Twistzz and cadiaN, perhaps. But, dude, I just need him to focus on himself a little bit more. I don't even think the calls are all that bad. Like, they're usually going to the bomb site that's a little bit weaker. They're usually calling strats that are within the meta. I'm not seeing stuff that's just dumb or, like, too poorly thought out. But he just gives up his life in the dumbest ways, and I have to penalize him for that as an individual. Because I think that's also an expectation thing where I feel like he should be one of the best fragging in-game leaders in the world, legitimately, from how good he was last season. But now I can't get that far behind him today. I think there's room for improvement, a lot of room for improvement. Actually, you know what? I should have done this earlier. I think I need to put category titles because I don't really see him as the same kind of D as like Drop and Twistzz. Maybe try again in 2+ years. Okay, now that I have that category name, I'm actually kind of excited to put another guy here. Yeah, I actually think Electronic needs to be in this category. I think he's really, really hindered his teams for such a long time. Disaster at Cologne, bad at Fisher. Like, what are we doing, man? It's been every team he's touching, like VP, like the way he outed Jame from the team, and yet, from what I'm hearing from the tier 2 speakers the viewers, the people that work it, like Jame might even look better with Paravision in some aspects than Electronic does with a team that's just better. It's just wild, man. I really, really hate seeing him in this role. Just give being a fragger another year or two, and then just you can try again then. But you need to move away from the role for a little bit because that's when you're at your best. That's when dude, at the Copenhagen Major, Electronic was pretty good. He was a pretty good player still. I think he actually had a sub 1.0 KD, but he had above a 1.0 rating, if I remember right. And yet then he just switches to IGL, just decides to botch everything and just really ruin everyone around him. They all get worse around him. I don't understand it, and I really hate it. I really hate that he thinks it just feels like an ego thing. And Egotronic is such a fitting name. It's such a fitting name for what he's been doing to his rosters. Now, need to find consistency. This is kind of weird because I think he's the best caller that's going to end up in this tier. Yeah, I think he's the best caller in this tier, but sometimes, man, his fragging is just, it's on another level of horrible. I feel like people think he should be higher because of some of the results they've gotten, but no major, pretty low at Cologne. They didn't even get to the playoffs of a PGL event. Like, ZTR needs to find some consistency, man. I don't love everything I'm getting right now from him in Gamer Legion. there's certain aspects you can like about Gamer Legion, but then you also know they can also pretty much lose to anybody that has even a little bit of firepower more than them. What's sad is that he can call pretty darn well, but then individually just he's one of those guys. Again, I'm never going to bet on this guy to win on one-on-one fight if they both know where each other is. Now, another guy that, let's just do this. JT, Complexity's been a bit of a mess lately. I'm not going to penalize you too much for that because you guys couldn't play with your star player recently, and now you're coming back into the season sort of raw. I will actually put you above Bet Boom and Boomich because we got much more of a glimpse of what you guys were capable of in the PGL event where you beat Major and Aurora in the playoffs. That definitely matters to me. And so lightly guiding, maybe even better. I'm going to put him above Linus because he still made that happen with no coach, whereas Linus is looking more and more like a saw merchant. This is an honest to God weird one. I feel like tabseN has really lost a lot of good faith from everybody. He's lost a lot. I can't do maybe try again in 2 years because he's stuck as an IGL forever, isn't he? But I think his pieces suck. I truly think he has some of the worst pieces right now that are around him. I think JDC is pretty solid. I think Crimbo can be okay, but he's not really just that go out and get yours kind of guy. And then I think QB's pretty bad. And I think Hyped is quite bad. I really think a lot of these guys on his team, I think 2 of his teammates are really bad. Like, I think they're kind of like tier 2.5 players, tier 3 almost. Like, Hyped and QB just don't speak to me on any level at all. Like, think of what tabseN's working with as a roster. You got a guy who really is supposed to be an up-and-coming player in Germany, but he's really more like a late-round support player, fills into a lot of different positions, not just that star. So he's not even really like a go-out-and-get-yours-every-time entry. And then you have JDC. JDC was the worst player on Maus, and now he's supposed to be the best player on Big. Dude, what kind of tools are you working with if your best player is the worst on like a tier 1 roster and one that had to get benched? That's a tough position to be in. I look at, say, Legacy, and I look at Sadzin, Dumao, and Lado, and I think that is a better trio than what tabseN's working with on Big. I mean, maybe try again in 2 years is weird because, again, but it's like, it's kind of fitting. It's almost like this. Maybe try again in 2 years when you have some decent pieces around you. Maybe try again when there's some decent talent around in Germany that you can work with. I'm putting him in maybe try again in 2 years. That's straight cope. Now, Electronic has shown me more this season than tabseN in terms of calling. Actually, Electronic's pieces are way better, though. Maybe what's he going to try in 2 years? Try out making a German lineup again in 2 years when there's more German talent, hopefully. All right. After what could be considered check-stealing sequences, there is redemption on the other side. Fallen has actually reignited my enjoyment of Brazilian Counter-Strike. This guy is looking sick lately. I think I'm putting him above HooXi, actually. The T-side calling was actually never the problem for Furia. It was actually their CT sides. Straight up A tier for sure. They just took down Falcons today. You know, that's fresh, hot off the presses. I cannot put kyxsan in the same tier as Fallen when Fallen just beat kyxsan, and kyxsan's roster costs like $10 million more than it. No shot. The consistency has not been there for them, but they're actually making some runs now that are really piquing my interest. So he's going to get there. A guy that can call that kind of came out of nowhere. This team has shaped up from what people thought about this entire region in terms of CS. And I'm even going to say that he frags pretty well too. He has had a couple moments recently that have inspired me, but sure, they bombed out of Cologne, but the run that they had at the major and at Fisher speak for themselves. Mercury is going to get into the lower portion of can call. In fact, you might even want to make an argument that he should be better than kyxsan because he got deeper at a tournament from a lower starting point than kyxsan at the major. Yeah, I mean, and even as an individual, I've never really been mad about Mercury and his plays too much. I think I have maybe like via the eye test 1 or 2 where it's like, what the hell? But it's not that often. It's not that often. I'm not mad. To go to the other Chinese IGL, I'm going to do Westmelon, and he's a little bit lower than Mercury for me. Okay, I think the highs of Tai Lu clearly have already shown to be better, and I'm going to do lightly guiding. I think I'm going to put him a little bit lower than Boomich here. Their major run was nice, but again, this has kind of been a while that it's been a season that hasn't been too impressive. And I also just think the pieces they have are kind of weaker than somebody like ZTR. I mean, if you put Westmelon's 4 up to ZTR's 4, you would think for sure Gamer Legion are going to do better than LinVision every time. But they aren't. They aren't always doing that much better. I think Mercury might be boosted a little bit by Jam Young finding some form, but I'm not Mosea and everything. Like, I'm not really super sold that he should be on the best Chinese team right now. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm not really too impressed with MIBR at all lately. I'm going to put him in the need to find consistency category. You have another great opener in Insani, and the only thing you have to show for it in the previous season is beating Falcons in a BO3 once. But other than that, they were practically silent, and I pretty much can just count the fact that like every group stage they're pretty much going to fail. They did get to the playoffs of one PGL event, I suppose, but I would kind of put that on the same level as getting deep in the major like Lux did with Legacy. I'm not too. It does feel like just this is Insani every game trying to. The way they lost at Cologne was just stupid, man. It was just dumb. Just Insani going berserk in every game and then not even making it through. What did they? They didn't even make it through stage 1, did they? It's just the dumbest thing ever. So yeah, this is definitely in the need to find consistency category. All right, getting to some more exciting IGLs over here. I'm just going to say right now, MUTiRiS, your best highlight was on SnapTap, but I'm not holding that against you, okay? I'm going to immediately put him in the low end of lightly guiding. Out of nowhere, really, MUTiRiS and Saw will just kind of have a couple results that are halfway decent. I think his team just sucks right now. I think his team is so bad. So I'm not holding that entirely against him. Didn't they lose some pieces lately, too? I'm not going to get into too much detail about MUTiRiS and Saw. Which was pretty good. Didn't they take down Furia like 2 weeks ago? Yeah, that's true. They beat Furia twice in a row. So that stands for something. Let's do that. A little bit better than Westmelon and Stanislaw for recent time. But then not really showing anything else. Not really showing too much else for me. Okay. I feel like a lot of people really want me to rate this guy because I said earlier in the season that they're or was it even last year, that they're a top 5 tactical team. I haven't liked 3D Max's calling as much this season or the last few months. They're almost moving away from some of the plays that made them a unique team and are now trying to play more standard Counter-Strike. I hope that isn't entirely the Body influence where Body's just watching Vitality demos and saying, hey, we should do this, because you don't have Vitality's players. Don't try to play standard. Do all the stuff that makes you a unique roster. I'm still going to give him credit for a lot of what I've seen maybe 7 months ago again at Shanghai, but I'm going to put him in the low can call category because actually, if I'm being real, he is probably the best fragging in-game leader of every single person on, well, if you want to just say pure fragging, sure, Twistzz can be better, but like has some semblance of calling along with it. I'm going to put Maka in the can call category. Can call. Did they just finish the same at Cologne as Falcons? Actually, you know what? Boom. Done. He's above that. But wait, what happened at the Austin Major for them? They finished above Falcons, actually. They actually beat BetBoom, FaZe, and Namiga. Yeah, he definitely beats out kyxsan there. And then in the next section, they went 1-3. Oh, Tyloo actually lost in that one, but Tyloo showed me more later. Ooh, it's close. It's kind of neck and neck between him and Mercury, actually. Nah, Mercury just won a tournament. Okay, so Mercury gets it. There we go. Yeah, Maka gets to be in the can call category. All right. I know that they started the season horribly, but biguzera has been doing God's work, okay? biguzera has been doing God's work, keeping team in contention. I know that feels like it's coming out of nowhere because of how they crashed out at Cologne. I don't blame biguzera for that, okay? I blame Snow. I blame Snow completely. I blame Snow almost entirely. That guy sold those games for them so badly. If they had another good player, just one more star, it's actually the case for what's going on with Pain, okay? If they even got Demo back, bring on Demo Pain for Snow, or even just give me the normal level of Kawaz before he fell off a cliff, I think this team would be a top 8 for sure. So, and that's no fault of biguzera, who had to change a lot of positions and still actually looks pretty serviceable as an individual, despite giving most of what he had to Davideus. So I like what I'm getting a lot from biguzera. I'm glad that we got 2 Brazilian in-game leaders kind of towards the top tier, and they actually feel like they've earned it. Now, a guy who, by the eye test, I think his calling sometimes looks bad and really simplistic. I have to give a little bit of credit. I mean, I have to obviously give some credit to this guy. I mean, I can't say it's bad, okay? I can't say that he's been bad for Aurora and Eternal Fire, okay? I think Major has held his own as an individual in a lot of different tournaments. I'm actually not too mad about his fragging, which is something that is a real pleasant surprise because at the beginning of 2024, he was really rough as an individual. I think he's still maybe by rating wise getting a little bit worse, but it's not falling off that same cliff that a few of these other guys have fallen off. I'm pleasantly surprised by what I'm getting out of Madger on a consistent basis. Aurora at Cologne right now are in the lower bracket, but they lost to a Spirit team that I don't think many people had them beating. Barely beat NIP out. And yeah, they didn't make it to the playoffs of the major. Come on, making it to the playoffs of every single event in the previous season. It was working. The lack of Anubis is definitely going to put this guy in contention to fall off, but I'm gonna put him in the top of the can call category. All right, we're doing this. We're putting HooXi down in the can call category, and we're moving Madger up. Okay, the category was getting a little too deep at the keeping team in contention. I feel like they've played it really admirably throughout a lot of this year. I think this feels a lot better for HooXi, and it feels better for Madger. Okay, he needs to be above HooXi, and it needs to be decidedly better. So there we go. There we go. That's the adjustment that was necessary. Facts. True. Only team to beat Vitality in a best of 3 this year. Exactly. We're getting to the cream of the crop here. A lot of good heads, a lot of good faces. All right. I haven't seen enough of Hunter yet, guys. I haven't seen enough about Hunter. I can't really sell you on anything about Hunter, but so I haven't really watched the games. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to put that at the very end. I'm sorry. I didn't watch the G2 games close enough to give you a great answer on what we're getting out of him. I think all I saw was they beat Furia, which was nice, but then they lost to Vitality. And then they beat 3D Max. I didn't see the 3D Max one at all. This is a sad case of Mauisnake needs more sample size. I really think I need a greater sample size. I'm not there yet to really put a definitive position on Hunter, and I don't want to just end the tier list with him in a category that I don't really think he belongs in with one more. Like, I haven't even seen him play a whole tournament, okay? Like, as an IGL. I've seen enough Zway to rate, to know what I think of that guy already, even with not having finished the tournament yet with him. But you know what I mean? If I had to put him anywhere right now, I put him in the can call category behind Maka. I know that's crazy because they just beat 3D Max. I'm going to put him here. I'm going to regret putting him here in 1 month. In 1 month, I'm going to regret putting him here. So I don't want to put him there. That was yeah. I can't do it. I can't do it, guys. Only lost to Vitality, second best in yearbook. Exactly. Now, 2 years ago, this guy would have been in the keeping team in contention category, maybe in World Beater Elite, maybe even there. But as it stands, I've seen some flaws from NIP. I'm not always sold that they are. I don't think Snappy's a perfect caller. I don't think he's a perfect IGL either. I think he's a solid, really solid captain that has done a lot of great work to get the team in a position where they might finally start getting some invites for some tournaments. But I'm not putting him at that level just yet. I think he's got to earn that. I got to see a little bit more. I'm going to put him at the top of lightly guiding, but right now I rate all of these guys above him. I do rate all of these guys above him today. I hope that changes in the very near future. This has been the biggest disappointment for me in recent memory. I am extremely frustrated with what we are getting out of him because I would have also had him in an A+ tier at one point. I think I did have him in the A+ tier. I think it was it felt like one of the safest calls to say this guy's up next to be one of the great IGLs out there to ascend into the elite status. And it's been, does not happen. It's not happened at all. It's not even been close. It's really been sad. Siuhy is way down here right now for me in terms of individual ability. I think ZTR has been better. I think Lux has even been better. There's zero reason that I should be putting Siuhy in any higher of a category. If you look at the finishes of Liquid in every tournament since he's joined them, it's not impressive whatsoever because you have the PGL Bucharest event where they came in last place. IM Melbourne, the one time they had a good run, they made it to the playoffs. They actually took a map off of Mongols. That's fine. They went through a pretty tough bracket at one point. They beat VP out. They lost to Vitality. Then they beat MIBR and they beat Navi. But I just think the pieces that Siuhy has at his disposal to be getting this little out of it, this consistently, to go 0-3 at the major too. How could I put him higher than Lux, who Lux just had a miracle run at the major? I can't do it. Yeah, siuhy needs to find consistency. This might be a roster problem, and I'd love for Liquid to really unveil some of what's going on there, but it's also, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of hard to do this with NAF. It's kind of really hard to do this with NAF on your team, man. Like, NAF, like, it's really, what are you supposed to do, man? They also didn't have a coach for a long time. They do have a coach now. First time Flashy, I think, is doing serious coaching duty after like a men's team. He did, he did do serious coaching with women's teams. But yeah, he was the analyst for Navi, and now he's finally promoted to coach for Liquid. Okay, NPL. Legitimately also one of the best fraggers in this entire list. I think the best fraggers are Apex, biguzera, Maka, maybe even Lux, actually. And NPL. NPL's sick. Oh, and bLitz, but he's not on the list yet. But I thought they were going to be better. Bait's been sort of disappointing for the last 7 months because, in my eyes, they choked the last MRQ tournament, or the last RMR. The Shanghai RMR felt like it was they felt like a surefire thing for me. Okay, I thought they were going to make it through that Group B where they had, who did they play? So down eight months ago, they went 0-3. They lost to, it was admittedly extremely tough. They lost to Spirit, then Aurora, then Astralis. That's not easy. So whatever, let's give them a pass for that because they played 3 really tough teams. But then they make it through the MRQ, they make it to the major, and they 3-0 right away through stage 1. They beat Imperial, they beat OG, they beat Wildcard. And then in the next group, they kind of fumbled it. They beat Falcons, which was great. We relished that. You beat Heroic, also cool. But then they lost to VP, Furia, and Linvision, and they haven't really done anything since then. Bait's a weird one for me. I like NPL a lot, but I'm still just going to keep him in the top of lightly guiding. He might be one of the next up IGLs, actually, because he's able to maintain significant individual performances, but just doesn't have that like captain element yet of consistently getting as deep into the tournament as it feels like some of their players should merit. Okay, AleksiB. They made it to the playoffs of the major. Kind of it's been a quiet season though so far, or a quiet year for Navi. Just the expectations were so high. I'm not going to let the expectations for the team though soil what is actually happening in the server. Okay, Navi are very consistent playoff finishes for practically every tournament they enter. Okay, they got top 4 at the Bounty, they top 4 at Katowice. Playoffs of practically every event except for Melbourne this entire year. And team just lost a lot in terms of that synergy that they had. And I don't put a lot of the blame on AleksiB. I think some of it comes down to probably the communication between individuals in micro moments, because the strats don't look bad via the eye test. But if I'm doing the past 7-8 months, so I do have to include the Shanghai Major, then that was a failure on their end, despite having a good season leading up to it. But this year has been pretty darn good. I mean, I think it's actually kind of criminal to underrate them too much. And I'm going to put them in keeping team in contention because it's weird. Like, in some ways, it feels like Eternal Fire have been the better team. Like, the Eternal Fire Aurora have been the better team overall this season. But you really look at it, and the results are really, really similar. It's just that again, don't let the expectations of Navi besmirch what is actually happening, which is that they're having pretty consistent runs. They're going quite deep at a lot of events. The only event that they really had a hard time with was Melbourne. Everything else, they're at least making it to the playoffs. It's kind of like I think he's better than Major. The thing is with Major, I got 2 guys on Major's team that are in the top 20 for me right now. And a lot of people was like, why is cadiaN not in it also? But nobody is really fighting with me to put another player on Navi in my top 20. Okay, no, that was not a fight. But there was definitely a fight for like Xantara should be higher. Woxic, that's a joke. Why is cadiaN not in the top 20? Maybe they just have more vocal fans, but the individuals for Aurora are doing more for me right now than the individuals of Navi. Bit fell off. JL is now benched. Ema is still, slightly above average rifler in tier 1. I don't even know if I want to say that. I don't even know. He's like a barely above average rifler. And then Wonderful, he's good until the playoffs. Okay, so you're getting as much as you can out of some of these pieces. Okay, Chopper, probably one of the most polarizing in-game leaders that we have in the space because he's got the single best piece for any T side in Donk. There's no better piece. There's no better piece. But they just get out game planned over and over and over again. Every single time they play Maus, out game planned. No shot versus Vitality. No one's even... Zwei is not integrated yet to this roster. What is going on, man? Like, this is just, it's not good enough. It's really not good enough. Holly and Chopper, that brain trust does not have the same credit that it once had, but they won Shanghai, guys. They did win Shanghai, and I'm including that in this tier list, okay? They won Shanghai, so how could I possibly have him low in this? It can't be here. He's not just lightly guiding, but it's kind of one of the biggest pivots for me in an in-game leader where for the pieces you have and the results you're getting, it almost feels like he's at the top of Can Call. I barely see him being better than the top of Can Call. I feel like all these other guys are actually getting more out of the pieces than Chopper. It's so brutal to say. I think right now, the main thing for me is he better than Major? Because that's where I'm at. Is he better or worse than Major? I think he has to be better than Major. I don't see a world where he's worse than Major. I think I'm going to have to go team to team right now. So Spirit, they won the Blast Bounty. They second placed Katowice, top four rivals. They won Astana. But it just feels like it's out of these ridiculous performances from, like, this only got this good because Shura went insane. This only got this good because you have a guy that just can beat everybody by himself. And if we're talking expectations and people wanted to rate AleksiB a little bit lower, I mean, what's the expectation when you really had a team that won the world championship in December, and then this season you've lifted 2 trophies, admittedly. You've lifted 2 trophies, but I think he's got to be here. I think he's got to be. For what Brollan, Fallen, biguzera are getting out of their pieces, I'm not rating Chopper higher than them. I'm not going to rate Chopper higher than them, but I think that means Major has to go down to the top of Can Call. He's at the top of Can Call. It's not a bad tier. It's not a bad list to be a part of, okay? It's not bad company to keep. Now, the reason I've been holding off on bLitz for so long is that another polarizing figure. Steel just hates this guy. Steel just hates him. He hates the Mongols. Thinks that they are 5 people pugging practically every round, it seems like. But what the hell? I mean, it's hard to argue with the results. It's hard to argue with the results. And I cannot argue with his fragging, man. This guy is nasty. He's actually the best fragger of everybody here, okay? I know, but what about Maka? Dude, op versus rifle? Space-taking rifle? Bro, bLitz is a monster, okay? bLitz is actually probably in the top 30 players I have this year. If I made the whole list out all the way through, bLitz is in the top 30. He's in the World Beater Elite IGL right now. I'm convinced that we're going to actually see a major grand final run back between Mongols and Vitality at Cologne, if that can even happen via seeding. Yeah, but so, yeah, bLitz, man, all the praise in the world to this guy. Feel like it's kind of crazy because also Techno said they had 2 days back and then they got into a tournament. Like, what? I don't even know. The exterior factors about this team are so absurd. Techno literally said they had 2 days and then they just went to Cologne. I was like, what are you guys doing? But I love it. I love it. Final guy, karrigan. This is all the bias in the world. All the bias in the world for karrigan. But it's time to have the conversation. Is karrigan the problem? Let's talk about the floor of karrigan here. The analyst desk is not calling. He still has a place. He could be great on an analyst desk, but it's not calling. He doesn't need to try again in 2 years. It ain't getting better. It's not in need to find consistency, okay? You made it to the playoffs of every CS2 major. It's more than lightly guiding. I've seen how bad some of these guys can be. But then we have to talk about it. Because he's not in the World Beater Elite tier. He's not there. But the bias might push him up one. Keeping team in contention or the Can Call territory. Can I, in good faith, put karrigan on the same level of Snax? The answer is decidedly no. He's at the bottom of keeping team in contention category. I can't do it. There's no way I could put him in the same category as Snax and HooXi, guys. It's just impossible for me. I wouldn't be able to do it. I couldn't go to sleep tonight if I actually ended with karrigan there, and that's going to be it. That's my tier list right there. Boom, that's done. If you don't think karrigan is S tier, you are clueless. I just got edge, but they aren't in contention with the disrespect. Were they not in contention at the Shanghai Major? Did not many of us subscribe to the notion that FaZe Silver is worth more than a Vitality Gold? Okay, he keeps us believing, okay? He keeps us on the edge of our seats every game. Just when you think FaZe are out, that Liquid are going to show him up. That Liquid, that Ultimate's doing good. No, actually, I don't think anybody really thought Liquid was going to win that series. I don't know. Maybe people did. I don't know what the odds were before it happened. But either way, the bias has been shown. karrigan still has some of it. Some of it. Okay? Is he the only in-game leader? No, he's not the only in-game leader. Is one of light company that has made it to the playoffs of all the CS2 majors. I think Apex has also. Chopper has also. AleksiB hasn't. And some of these guys actually weren't on teams, so can't even really count them. bLitz has, though, and that's why he stays up on top. All right, let me read through this really quickly, and then I'll look at the CS2 update that's coming out right now. World Beater Elite, S-tier IGLs that just came out of the grand finals of the major. They're still actually wiping the sweat off their brow from that single BO3. It's Apex and bLitz, keeping team in contention. Guys that I wouldn't mind if they were leading my team. Brollan, Fallen, biguzera, Chopper, AleksiB, and karrigan. biguzera is probably the guy that's been punching up lately. He's been awesome. Really, really big shout out to him. And Fallen made us all believe in Fury again. Never thought I'd see this. In fact, I think Fallen maybe was in the analyst desk is calling 2 years ago. So for him to be getting back into form like this shows that the longevity of leaders, you can't really count them out. It's been, honestly, it's been a wild ride to be following Fallen for the last few years. Can call category, Major, HooXi, Snax, Mercury, Maka, and kyxsan. I think the guy that really got the big shout out here, despite the fact that they doesn't really have the results, has been Maka. I just still think that I have a lot of faith in 3D Max in weird ways. I think that the way he's put the team together has gotten way more out of some of the pieces he's working with. Like I think they look really rough as individuals at times, but they still can pull off a couple upsets here and there. Now, lightly guiding NPL, probably next up to be a great IGL and a big contributing player for a very strong team. Welcome G2 NPL in the future. No, I'm just kidding. But then Snappy, Lear, JT, Linus, Boomich, MUTiRiS, Westmelon, Stanislaw. I'm kind of confused about Lear because I thought Boomich yelled at him across the room something about like, you ready for VP yet? Or something like that. Because I guess there were rumors that Lear was going to be the new IGL of VP, but I guess that never really actualized. Now, need to find consistency. ZTR. The reason I put ZTR here is that I think Gamer Legion has better pieces than every single team that's in the lightly guiding category. I think of just PR and Rez, and PR and Rez as a rifler duo is better than we have in, I think, any of these. Linus had some good pieces for a minute with xFloud and Tanir, but Rez and PR is better than, well, Tanir xFloud versus Rez PR. I'm just holding it against ZTR. I'm just holding it against ZTR. I think he's a great caller, but individually very bad. Now, Lux, siuhy, Int, Exit, room to move up for all of these guys, but they need to find something soon. They need to find something soon. Maybe try again in 2 years. Electronic, you could just be a fragger again. Get Lear as your in-game leader, whatever. tabseN, I think the pieces around you are exceedingly weak, and it's hard to even know your true level as a caller today. Drop, very simplistic style, need to develop mid-late rounds. Twistzz, Deporch de pop. Okay, those who know. The analyst desk is calling. Yeah, cadiaN, I think just this is time for a career pivot. It's time for a career pivot. That's all. Okay, thank you guys so much. And as always, being toxic is a choice.